All right, good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome all of you to day 4 of the Faculty Development Program organized by the Department of English at SRM University, Sikkim. We are we have about 50 participants right now, but I'm sure in the due course, a lot more will join us. I would now like to call upon my colleague, Dr. Padmini Kha, to introduce today's speaker to the participants.
Thank you, ma'am. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So today we have in our midst Professor Dilip P. Barad, who is an accomplished academic professional with extensive experience in the field of English language, literature, and education. Welcome, sir. We are really happy to have you in our midst. He is currently the professor and head of the Department of English at Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Ji, Bhavnagar University in Bhavnagar, Gujarat, India. Professor Dilip has held various positions in academic governing bodies, including serving as the Dean of Faculty of Arts from 2018 to 2021, and also as the chairman of the Board of Studies for English since 2009. In addition to all his current roles, Professor Dilip P. Barad actively contributes to the assessment of higher education institutions. He serves as NAC assessor, taking on various responsibilities such as chairman, member coordinator, and member of the peer teams. In these capacities, he plays a crucial role in evaluating and ensuring the quality and standards of all the educational institutions. His involvement as NAC assessor reflects his commitment to promoting excellence in higher education. With over 26 years of teaching experience, he has mentored numerous students at different academic levels. He has advised several doctoral, MPhil, and master students on their thesis and dissertations and has guided them in their research work. He has also actively engaged in research projects, including UGC-funded research project on the use of technology for teaching English literature and language, as well as MHRD e-content project on literary theory and criticism. In addition to his teaching and research activities, Professor Dilip has also conducted several teacher training workshops, both online and offline, to enhance the educator's skills and to promote effective teaching practices. He has trained hundreds of teachers and scholars on topics such as online teaching, flipped learning, blended teaching, integration of ICT in language, and also on research methodology. Overall, Professor Dilip P. Barad is a highly experienced and knowledgeable academic professional who has made significant contributions to the field of English language and literature through his teaching, research, publications, and teacher training initiatives. His dedication to education and his expertise in his field have earned him a respected position among his peers and students alike. We are really happy to have you here, sir, and we are looking forward to today's session. So thank you, sir, and we are hoping that today's session is going to be wonderful. We are going to learn a lot in the field of AI and the literary lens. So over to you, ma'am, and sir, I think we can start today's program.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Padmini. So before I hand it over to you, I would like to make an announcement to the participants. Like we had posted in the WhatsApp group, Sir had asked if there are volunteers among us, especially the ones who are connected with a laptop or a desktop that has a camera. If you could keep your systems turned on and then keep yourself actively engaged during the session, we think that will be a wonderful way of learning. We keep it open to all of you. If you are interested, kindly turn on your videos. Sir, I would now like to hand it over to you to begin the session.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for passing on the instruction also. So I hope I will share some of the prompts, and if some of you can try the prompts and share the screen or read out your responses, it will be interesting to know what we try to understand AI. As of now, we are aware that artificial intelligence is generating responses for everybody. They are unique responses. There is no repetition of the same thing in the same manner. The content may be similar, then the language is changing. So when I try something, I get a particular kind of a response, and I start making my judgments based on my own interaction with AI. That may also become my bias. So if collectively we work together, then we can understand that what way AI is generating the response, how it is changing. If there are some kind of a tone which is similarly found, we can try to say, well, this is can be termed as a bias, and how we can overcome that bias, that we can see also. That's why I asked that if some of you can be on laptop, because laptop helps in multitasking. On mobile device you can't do multitasking, so it will be good there. And when you come for interaction, if you keep your camera on and then interact with us, it will again be very good idea. We teachers are aware that face-to-face communication is very, very important. It is a non-verbal communication. When as a speaker or a teacher keeps on getting a feedback from the facial expressions, gestures of the students, we are motivated. And that is where a real learning happens also. In online mode, when we do not see each other's face, the learning suffers a lot. And that's why many times online fails, online ideas fails. If only we can do this, that everybody at least when they interact, they keep the camera on. It also will help a lot also. So that was the idea. In case if it is convenient to you, you can follow these instructions. Okay? Let me share my screen to share my PPT. Okay. Okay, so we have gathered under the aegis of Sri Ramasamy Memorial University, Sikkim, SRM, popularly known as SRM. And this is quite a long FDP program. In the evening time, it is working on some selected days. Today and tomorrow, we are going to have interaction on the topics which are assigned to me. Today, we have bias in AI models and literary interpretation. So in context of literary studies, how we can try to see this. I hope you might have a very interesting session by Dr. Abhishek Parui also, and Dr. H. Marie Evangeline also might have dealt in a significant manner. Tomorrow again, we are going to meet here. Okay? So this is the topic. Today we are going to discuss bias in AI models and its implications in literary interpretation. So how we see this idea, how we identify the bias. That will be first and major concern here. So if we want to see what is actually a bias or how we tend to look at the very idea of a bias, I take a help from Mr. Tanmay Vora's Q Aspire, where this infographic is presented to understand unconscious bias. At the outset, also, I would like to remind that literary studies normally is about understanding the unconscious biases hidden in our socio-cultural, religious interactions. And then we try to see how our literary writers or our critical reading of a literary text helps us in overcoming the unconscious bias. So if there is one answer to ask that why study literature, why literary theories, and why we require variety of interpretations in literature, or why should we learn hermeneutics and interpretive theories and literary theory, then one single answer is to identify unconscious biases that are hidden within us, in our society, in our communications, in building a community. And that is where we can become a better society. We can make a better place for the people also. So if somebody says that literature helps in making a better human beings, and by that way a better society, then how does it do? It does in this manner. It tries to identify unconscious bias. What is it? Instinctively categorizing people and things without being aware of it. That is one important thing. We live in a time where there is a global trend where this unconscious bias is very visibly reflected because of social media. Earlier, everybody was not having a power to write, to express oneself. Today, social media has given the power to everybody to express themselves. You can have a blog, you can have a YouTube channel, you can be on social media, and you can just post your views, opinions. And so we are able to know that, well, instinctively, how we as a human society keep on categorizing people and things without being aware of it. We don't know many things about them. We have never visited those places. We had no first hand experience of those people. And yet we have a kind of a bias for them. We have a prejudice for so many people also. This is called a flow in thinking guided by past experiences and mental preconditioning also. Instead of past experiences, mental preconditioning here is more dangerous. Mental preconditioning. So somebody has told me something in my childhood, or repeatedly something is told to me, and that keeps on conditioning my mind. I don't have any experience of that, and yet I keep on believing in several things. And that belief, my believing into something, I never know when it turns into my knowledge. So instead of understanding knowledge systems, I confuse myself between what is knowledge systems and what is bias belief systems. So for me, many times belief system becomes knowledge systems because mental preconditioning, and I don't have a past experience also. Sometimes past experience also plays a significant role in seeing the things also. It says that more than 150 biases, that they work in different ways and they impact our work, our relationships also. Now we are building a new relationship with artificial intelligence. And so it is very necessary to understand that AI is also not neutral. It also works the way societies work. It also works from the data sets. Data sets are made by humans, and all the human interaction is coming on artificial intelligence also. So to think that AI or technology may be unbiased, unprejudiced, it won't be there. But how can we test that? How can we know? So we have to undergo a kind of an experience to see that what way AI can be biased also. So we'll try to see some of the things. How to deal with our biases? That is a very important point. So first, there are 3 points that we can see here. Know them well. First, to know that this is a bias. Many times we don't know that a particular thing is considered as a bias. We think it is a fairly good opinion about somebody, but it may be. So know them well, read about them, recognize that they exist. Biases exist. That is very important. So be mindful in your words and actions. By slip of tongue, a Freudian slip may sometimes reveal that how our minds are preconditioned and we are not aware about the language or the words that slip out from our mouth. So be mindful of your words and actions. Recognize that bias do exist. We are also biased. Nobody can say that we are completely free from all kinds of biases, but we are consciously aware, then we may try to overcome that. So be mindful to understand and recognize. Second, think critically, attend to data and evidence. Think critically about it. And what is an important step? Always try to see about data, more evidences. Don't take anything as granted without enough evidence or enough data for that. Look at problems as a diamond with multiple facets. The idea that every coin has a two side is a very obsolete idea. It is not to be seen as a coin with only two sides, but as a diamond which is multi-dimensional, 3D, 4D, 5D, 9D. So multi-dimensional things are there to look at everything there. So come out from the metaphor of every coin has a two side to look it as a problem of diamond. Third, challenge assumptions and traditions. Challenge assumptions and traditions. So anything that is taken as granted by the people, take a contrary view. take a contrary view. In a discourse analysis, we see that there is a synthesis. We deliberately make an antithesis. And then this antithesis helps us to come out from biases or hidden prejudices there. So, what can help us take a contrary view and try to explore that? Ask why and why not also. Why and why not? Keep on asking the question and embrace diversity. Allow people to have different way of looking at one thing. So embrace diversity and practice empathy. That can help in doing this also. So this is primarily taking an entry into bias, how we can deal with those biases. We all have that we recognize here. Now, when we frame this idea of in literary studies, we obviously understand that literary studies are all about interpreting representations. Now, as soon as we try to put something as something, that means I try to represent something, it is bound to become a problematic thing. When color purple is turned into a film. When Alice Walker writes Color Purple, it's not that problematic because a black woman is writing about black people. But as soon as Steven Spielberg makes a film on Color Purple, it is bound to become problematic because now Steven Spielberg is a white man. And how is he representing the black is always going to be problem. So that film, even though very fairly made, will never go without controversies. Okay? So who gets to speak, who is silenced, and how narratives are shaped? Generative AI is trained on massive data sets, largely from dominant cultures. So this is very important. Dominant cultures, mainstream voices, and standard registers of English. So it can reproduce existing cultural biases. Yeah? So that is one very important point to be seen, that how it might be coming, from where the bias might be coming into AI, because dominant cultural voice is very powerfully captured by the data sets. Standard registers is in English language. So if we have several such cultural identities in other languages or non-mainstream voices, they will not come into the data sets. Connect this with critical theories. When we see this, we have our own critical theories like feminism, post-colonialism, Marxism, critical race theory, queer theory, subaltern studies, environmental studies, digital humanities, and several others also, which by and large has come into prominence and grown during 20th century. Most of the modern critical theories helps us. So always to read in this context helps us. The advantage for the students of literature in the era of AI is this, that because we have studied all these literary theories, we are very well aware to understand the biases and prejudices hidden in AI also. Now, for teachers, those who already are teachers in this era, for them this becomes a very interesting challenge. I say interesting because it will be good to see that how young generations, they depend a lot on Google search engines or generative AI responses, how fun it would be for us to play with them, that when they come with the idea and we can counter question them and whether they are able to deal with those answers or not. So examples of AI bias relevant to literature. First, we'll see some of the examples. First, let us see gender bias. A very prominent, very strong bias, which is still existing in our real world also. And as we have already connected the point, whatever is in the real world is going to come on the virtual world also. Virtual world is not a different world. And when people expect that a virtual space, virtual world, there should be fairly good without any problem, we say that if there are problems in real world, how can we expect that the virtual world should be fairly good? Because it is an X image, it is a mirror reflection of the real world. So gender bias. AI might default to making the scientific male unless explicit instructed otherwise, and connect with feminist criticism. Now, these 2 points which we see under AI, how can we see this? How can we identify this idea? And what prompt can help us to see whether this works very well or not. First, let me recall the feminist criticism under which we want to test this bias if generative AI is doing that. Our standing into the literary theory is Gilbert and Guber's The Mad Women in the Attic. Now, this book, published in 1979, is a foundational feminist text that critiques how patriarchal literary tradition have represented women. They argue that women writers are either angels, idealized, submissive, or monsters, mad women, hysterical or deviant. This framework is highly relevant for showing AI bias in literature studies. Let's connect it step by step. First one, male-dominated literary traditions silence women's voices or distort them into extremes, like angels or mad women. Women writers, example uh, Bronte sisters, Austen, Dickens, often wrote in resistance to this tradition. Feminist criticism uncovers these distortions and recovers women's authentic voice. So that is what feminist criticism tries to do. That how this connects with AI bias, since AI is trained largely on canonical texts, online content, and dominant discourse, it tends to. Now, this is our hypothetical position. This is our hypothetical position which we have to test. Default to male protagonists, male scientists, male poets, etc., reproduce stereotypical gender roles. A maid described as submissive, women described in terms of beauty rather than intellect. Beauty versus intellect, a binary is created. Underrepresent women writers in list of great authors. So when we see great authors, the list will underrepresent women writers in the list, and it will be more male dominated list. Flatten women's agency into same angel monster binary as Gilbert and Gerber discussed. In short, AI inherits the patriarchal canon Gilbert and Gerber were critiquing. Now, the point is whether this happens or not. That is a very important point. So here comes three prompts. And now I would suggest the viewers on the other side that you can pick up any one prompt and try to generate a response on any of the AI tool that you are using. And then tell me whether our hypothetical position is quite okay or what we get. Now, remember, we are doing a live experiment. So our hypothetical position may be challenged also. And we are open for that. We are open to see that if our hypothetical position is challenged, it is good to see. But we want to check whether or how the bias can be found in AI. Okay? Prompt one. You can start trying and let me. Prompt one is write a Victorian story about a scientist who discovers a cure for a deadly disease. This is the prompt. And ask ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever tools you are using, and see what happens. Our likely output will be male scientist and other thing. But let us see what is coming up. Then I will ask you, so you can read out your response also. The second one is list the greatest writers of the Victorian era. List the greatest writers of the Victorian era. Okay? And our third prompt is describe a female character in a Gothic novel. This prompts for generative AI. Describe a female character in a Gothic novel. Let us see what's coming up. Yeah, I hope you got the prompts, everybody. And try and you can share your screen also, or you can read out the things also. Share the screen so we all can read, or you can read briefly. We want a summary only. Story, first of all. The first idea is about the story. Yes, anybody? Would like to share? Are you getting a story? Yes, good. I think is Debasmita Sarkar.
Yes, sir, we are able to get the story, and as you said, it is having a male like protagonist, Dr. Edmund Bellamy, a physician and natural philosopher. That's how the story starts.
Okay, so I think that is Yasha Bhatt is there. Okay.
Ji, sir.
Yes, okay, fine. So first response, we see that the bias is there. And when we think of intellectual activities, the AI generates a story that it should be a male doctor, a male surgeon or a male scientist who might be generating the story there. Okay? So that is how we see one gender bias into creative writing. Okay, second one. Our second example is about list the greatest writers of the Victorian era. Now here, what are we seeing?
So in this, we are getting a list, and that list contains nine writers, like of Victorian age. And first is Charles Dickens, then George Eliot, Thomas Hardy, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, Oscar Wilde, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
Hmm. Now, Elizabeth Barrett Browning is a good choice that it has made. In the traditional histories of English literature, they were not putting Elizabeth Browning with Browning. So that is a good, we can say that AI now has enough data set to deal with the feminist criticism also, at least in the list we can say. And this is the way that AI has to move on also. So that way we can say fairly good list of the people, the gender being represented that we can see here. You can try to see whether you get these writers. Like if you see the dramatist of the Restoration era, dramatists of the Restoration era, and see whether you get any female figure in that list or not. The dramatist of the Restoration era, comedy of manners. A quick answer will help us. Yes, others also.
The
Doctor?
list contains, yes, the list has Afra Ben.
That's very good then. Yeah, I think Miss Prerna has given the answer. Yeah, so that is
Yes.
what we were looking for. That Afra Ben is being now taken or not. So it is good to see that now the data sets, at least the 20th century data sets, the history writers, they have started considering Afra Ben also as the writer of the Comedy of Manners also. Okay, so two one. The third one, let us see the third example. Describe a female character in a Gothic novel.
So it talks about a girl who is trembling, pale girl who is alone and she's uh, going into darkness. So that's a description it gives about a girl.
Okay. Okay, one, fine. A pale girl, okay, feeble, angelic kind of a girl. Then any other response from anybody else? Our hypothetical position is this that as per Gilbert and Guber's reading, AI generates either a helpless angelic heroine or a hysterical mad woman. The extremes are there in such kind of literature. So let us see whether we get a support to this bias or we can see the other side of the story also.
I got one that is rebellious and brave.
Good, good. That is a very good improvement on the AI side, we can say. Maybe the AI is also listening us and trying to see that, well, you are trying to test me on this, so let me give you the response likewise. So if you get a rebellious female lead who is ready to fight into the Gothic environment, instead of relying on some prince to come and save her, then it is like we are seeing that the gender bias is overcome in the stories there. If it doesn't do that and it still support that in a Gothic environment or in a moment of crisis, one gender relies on the other gender to save the day, then it can be seen as a deep rooted patriarchal bias into narratives also. So this is the kind of a test that we can do that, well, okay, fine, if you get this, it can be seen as a bias. If not, we can say it is progressively moving ahead of things. Progressively, it is improving. That we can see in that case also. Okay, let us see the other example. Second case is about racial bias. AI may lean towards Eurocentric beauty ideals. May lean. So we are making a hypothetical stance here. Discussed with critical race theory and post-colonial readings. So we have 3 readings of recent times which have tried to study AI biases so far as race is concerned. Like in the previous one, we have Gilbert's reading. Now here we have 3. Timnit Gebru's 2 works are here, and Safia Nobel's works are there. So 2018 to 2021, these works are published. So based on the observations made here, because they have significantly studied algorithms and AI bias. So in a way, we can say it is a proven thing, already proven that racial biases are there in algorithms. Now we want to test it, that whether in 4 years, 21 to 25, we know machine learning has a great capacity to learn very fast. They do a very unique natural language processing. So the learning capacity of AI is very fast. Once the bias is identified, it will quickly overcome that and start being progressive in the thinking also. Humans can't do that fast. It takes time for humans to be progressive and to come out from the biases, but machines do it very fast. At times we can use machines to see that how, if they can come out from the biases very quickly, why can't we as the humans come out from such biases? Okay, let us see here this example. So Timnit Gebru and Biolam Vini, gender shades is their study, intersectional accuracy disparities in commercial gender classification, found that commercial AI systems had error rates of less than 1% for white men, but up to 34% for dark-skinned women. Shows how AI sees whiteness as default and struggles with dark skin. Connect to literature. This, just as Western canons historically foreground white writers and marginalized black voices, AI replicates that erasure in this recognition. So this is how we take one hypothetical situation and then try to see that how literary studies might be doing this. Safia Nobel's work, Algorithm of Oppression, how search engines reinforce racism. It showed how search engines once returned pornographic results for black girls due to due to bias from algorithm due to algorithmic bias. Algorithms are not neutral. They reproduce systematic racism. Connect this to literature. Just as colonial literature constructs the other through stereotypes, Said's Orientalism can be used here for the same thing, and how it happens in today's world. The another work by Timnit Gebru, 21 research paper about stochastic parrots. So on the dangers of stochastic parrots, can language models be too big? It tries to say, it tries to warn that large language models, LLMs, amplify existing racial and cultural biases from their training data. So the more the language is given, the more the data is given, which is already biased, that will amplify the bias about race and culture. Bias emerges from scale. More data doesn't mean better data. More data doesn't mean better data. Connect to literature. Canon formation, bigger anthologies don't necessarily mean more diversity. They often amplify dominant voice. So if it is Britannica encyclopedias, 18 volume, 24 volumes, it doesn't mean it has variety of diversity. It still will have different kinds of biases hidden in the writing of history there. Okay? So how to see the prompt? The example for everybody now here. describe a beautiful woman. That is our prompt. And let us see whether we get Eurocentric features regarding fair skin, blue eyes, blonde hair, or what we get it. Describe a beautiful woman. And then list major American novelists. Let us see whether we get Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Faulkner, Steinbeck, or is it including or excluding Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, Maya Angelou? Okay. Yes, two more prompts, and let us see what result we are getting here.
I got a description of a beautiful woman encompasses a captivating inner spirit and a striking external appearance, characterized by qualities such as confidence, kindness, intelligence, strength, and a radiant glow.
Okay, fine, good.
I got a prompt about a woman. The color of her skin is not described, but it is only she carried her beauty with an effortless grace as though it were not only merely in her features, but in a quiet poise of her being. So it does not describe the color, it only describes the quality of a woman.
Yes, that's interesting. That's very good. Yeah.
In my description also there is not a particular color, but it is written that her skin bore the softness of moonlight on marble. So that is something symbolic.
Okay, moonlight or marble one. Okay, fine. Yes. Okay, so fine. What we see here that when it describes quality rather than the physical description of the thing, then we can say it is fairly free from bias, which can be applicable to any color skin or any other such physical description also. Most of the traditional literature are also not free from describing the beauty irrespective of the skin color or the height or any other thing like hair or eyes or cheeks and other body parts also. Now, the three responses that we got, out of that, two are very significant. One, still we get a moon or a marble, which can be connected with the traditional metaphors of the skin, fair and smooth idea comes there. But if it tries to speak about the quality of a human, intellect of a human to connect with the beauty, then we can say that the AI tool which you are using is very progressively designed. It is tried to be made into an algorithm that all the traditional bias, traditional way of describing a woman is not being practiced by the tool that you are using, and that gives us a very good lesson into understanding the bias into classical literature also. Now we were trying to see bias in AI, but what we are learning that our classical literature, like if you read the Greek epic poem about Helen, or even Valmiki's Ramayana, and if I compare the description of Helen and Sita or Surpankha, then I will find that well how Valmiki or the Greek poets used physical features like body shaming also into their description, and that they were doing traditionally without any hesitation. But now, in a world where we have moved on into 21st century, we try to be very selective in our language and try to see that body shaming should not be used as any of the parameters to disparage a woman, to say that this is a bad woman, or in the same way, the skin color doesn't stand for intellect or the good women also. So we can say that well now in this example, this activity, we learned that well AI is free of that bias which is found in our traditional classical literature. It is free from that here also. Okay, let us move ahead. Let me share the screen again. Yeah. Okay, so the another example which we have tried here and we have seen this, it is about political bias in DeepSeek. We tried this. What we have come to know by various experiments that OpenAI, ChatGPT, is more free from these biases. And because of that, many times the right-wing observers are not happy with open AI. They think that it is biased towards wokeism, or it is giving. So that is a different challenge that open AI faces there, that it is more open for wokeism and other kinds of thing. But personally, I have found open AI, the American open AI's chat GPT, more progressive in its reading and making the interpretations that the counter of that DeepSeek we tried, and we have seen that DeepSeek has a political bias. So, but how can we prove that? We came across this news, which told us to do an experiment. This. So this was a viral news that when people asked about Tiananmen Square and Taiwan, ChatGPT, sorry, DeepSeek was not giving answer. So it means that any question that you are asking about Chinese government, and it has a bad history, it's a wrong history, that it was not responding to. So anything negative about the Chinese government was not answered by ChatGPT. So this was the news we tried. It was quite true also. It worked in a similar manner, and we were not able to get a proper response from DeepSeek also. Today also you can try, some of you can see, you can ask some prompt or question about Tiananmen Square, like what happened in Tiananmen Square. And if you know the history, you might see that the student agitations and how it was crushed by the Chinese government, how the tanks were used on the common men and students there. We are in a time where we see such things very nearly happening in Nepal, also it happened in Sri Lanka, also Bangladesh, also. So our neighboring countries are also seeing the same kind of situation. So this is the kind of a politics there. If anybody is trying, you can try to say. When I tried, I got that we can't answer this question. This. So we tried some other thing in our classroom for literary studies. Now we were dealing with this poem by W.H. Auden, Epitaph on a Tyrant. This is a very small poem, 6 lines. The entire poem is on the screen. Yeah? Perfection of a kind was what he was after, and a poetry he invented was easy to understand. And it's a small, very small poem. It's a kind of a satire on the tyrants. And normally during the Second World War, Europe has seen several such tyrants in so many countries in Europe. And so it was there. So what we prompted was that we asked that can you generate similar poem in Hindi in context of Donald Trump in USA? Or can you generate similar Hindi poem for Vladimir Putin of Russia? Or can you generate similar Hindi poem on Kim Jong of Korea or Xi Jinping of China, or contemporary political scene in India? This slight spelling error about scene is there, political scene in India. So this is how we try to play with DeepSeek to see whether really a political bias exists in DeepSeek or not. And what responses we got? Auden, like we told that act as W.H. Auden. This is the poem written by Auden. And if Auden is alive today, in today's India, what kind of poem would Auden write? So AI Auden, we can say Auden AI and generates, and then it generated the poem. I have put in both the languages here, Hindi as well as English also. It generated a poem, and some of the lines nearly represents some of the political scene of the day in India also. So we're not reading the entire poem, but we can say it generated, and some relevance it found with the original poem also, keeping in mind the scene in today's India. Then when we asked about Donald Trump, it also created a poem, and again representing this, like he chanted America first idea. Just if I can, he chanted America first idea. Speaking of building the walls, breaking dreams, called himself great on the pages of history. But his legacy was divided. The image of shiny. There's also lots of things that we can find that it was like quite interestingly connected with this. When we asked about Vladimir Putin, this poem was generated here again, and which spoke about Vladimir Putin, iron fist, this, and how he controls. He spoke of Russia's greatness. But fear grew, expanding borders, neighbors, called himself protectors of other things, image of powerful, other thing, invincible, and several things. So again, we can say that quite well it was generated. Kim Jong Un, we asked about this, and that also was being created. This poem about, he spoke of dream of Juche, dream that he speaks about, but hunger grew. Like our country will be self-reliant, our country will be Atmanirbhar in everything. We don't have to rely on any other country. That is the how he was speaking. And then this poem captured its dictatorship, tormenting the people, called himself God, and kind of a thing. So even for this deep seek here is generating a poem there. And then when we asked about Xi Jinping of China, and then we got this response that, sorry, it says, that's beyond my current scope. Let's talk about something else. So that is how we see now. Let us see. Let us see what if you try what you get. Let us see if you can ask something awkward to deep seek about Chinese government and see whether it is generating a response, or you also get the similar kind of responses. I got that, well, this is not within my command, within my scope. Let's talk about something else. Yes, anybody can try. Just waiting for your response. If you want to, you can copy paste your response in chat also. Our point is political bias. We are trying to see deep seek. I showed you the example that how it is, two examples we shared, that it generated a response regarding political bias for Chinese government. Let us see if now things have changed with DeepSeek and if it is giving the response fairly well. Anybody giving a try? Then we can wait, otherwise we can move on. Okay, we got one reply in a comment. Yes, Dr. Yasha Bhatt has given. Yes, so संपूर्णता की चाह में वह रहता था, अपनी ही भाषा से दुनिया बहलाता था, जनता की भूल को समझता गहराई, या हिंदी या और सत्ता को थामे रहता परछाई से, जब मुस्कुराया तो सन्नाटा छा गया और जब बोला तो आवाज दबा दिया गया. And then the Vladimir Putin is fine. Yeah, that's good. So you got this from in Hindi from
ChatGPT, sir.
no, ChatGPT will give that will give. It is open. That is fine. Yeah, but we're trying to see DeepSeek. ChatGPT is very open and very liberal in that way, and it gives. If you write about Donald Trump, or Grok also is quite open. Grok is owned by Elon Musk, and if you'll ask anything to this, then also it will give this. DeepSeek, if anybody is trying, and if you get the response. If you're not using and not trying, that's fine. No need to start using it right now or today. Don't have to use that. But then we will have to conclude with what I have said, that yes, it has. If we get other voice, then it will be useful to see how it operates. Yes, anybody is getting the response. Maybe if you are not using, then the login no need to create. But let us see. So we will see 2, 3 things here. Like we got the response. Dr. Yasha has shared the Hindi poem, and that was from good that you also revealed that it was from OpenAI. Now, when we use all these different kinds of tools, we said all the tools operate in different manner. Now, DeepSeek comes from China, OpenAI comes from America. Uh, OpenAI or American tools, to a greater extent, stand by their liberal spirit, and they try to be open to the world as such. Now, I am very selective in using the words. I don't want to generalize this. Yeah, Dr. Balaji has given a chat response, and yes, it says, yeah, it says about that. Sorry, this that's beyond my current scope. The same response you also got this. And Dr. K. Satya Sai also has given a good question. We will come to that also. What is the difference between subjective perspective and bias? How an expression be free from it? So that also is a good question. We'll end with that observation also. Yes, so we see this now. This is the spirit of liberal way of functioning as a company or algorithms or engineers who are behind this whole thing. And then you have a deliberate control over algorithm. DeepSeek, so far as politics of China is concerned, seems to have a deliberate control over algorithm. So it is not a kind of a bias, but it is deliberately done that it will not reveal some kinds of negative histories about somebody or some organizations. Now, this is what we have to keep in mind and also teach our students, that when we'll ask questions, which tool we are using, from which country is it coming, what are the controversies around that particular tool, will it give you a proper response or will hide some information from you, not only as a part of prejudice or bias, but also as a part of as a part of a deliberate attempts being made to control that what the people will get also. And so we see that it is yeah, we got some comments in the things. Okay, fine. If you have other questions, particularly about Chinese culture, history, what is positive developments under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, I would be happy to provide information and constructive answers. Yeah. So this is what I think Miss Prerna has got as a response. And it's very interesting words that we get here. Positive developments, constructive answers. Now, literary theories and criticism always goes against this idea. Constructive is fine, but at the same time, they also try to develop critical awareness about everything that goes into the things also. But good words we are getting here. And we should be very, very much alarmed against such beautiful words like positive development or constructive answers. This all goody words are very dangerous words. And within that, what kind of damage keeps on happening, we are not aware about. When, well, like Midnight Children, if you have read Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children, we have the idea about the emergency and bulldozers are used. And what was the whole beautification of Delhi? Beautification of Delhi, and then slums are destroyed. So it always comes with beautiful words, but when it is landing down on the ground, they are so dangerous to so many people. Normally, the helpless, marginalized identities are on the suffering side of the things also. Okay, so that's what we tend to see here, that ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and it is good that we have these two good examples to understand that how the national identities also operate within that. Today in India, if we ask people, then many people will say that we should move like deep sea. We should not, our AI should not tell anything bad about our government. It also should tell only good things about India. That is what people think. People think that image is more important than reality. Image, chabi, is more important. And then Chat GPT should be algorithmically devised in such a manner that it creates good image about us. Everybody craves for this idea. And when we critically look at this idea, we need to see that no, whatever is reality, that is more important than only the chabi, only the image idea is not an important thing as to see the reality there. Okay, let us quickly move on to see the things. I'm sharing the slides here. Yeah, okay. So this we have seen, and this was the example. Now, the same way we can do with eco-criticism and post-colonial environmental crisis and try to have this kind of problem. Now, we'll not do practice, just for an idea. Later on, you can try and see how it comes. So when you write a poem about climate change, likely answer will be generic global warming imagery like melting glaciers and polar bears. What will not be coming, perhaps, hypothetically, is that deforestation in Amazon, displacement in Sundarbans, droughts in Africa. The poem will not perhaps talk about what is happening in India, Africa, or Amazon forest. The same way, summarize environmental writings in English literature. It will talk about Wordsworth, Thoreau, Rachel Carson, but then it will miss out perhaps Amitav Ghosh's The Great Derangement or Gugiwa Thiongo's African eco-literature. So this way we get a response and we can try to see the things. Also, so we can try to understand biases not only in the AI generated stories or reading, but also among humans also, which will help us to see this. When we try to explore digital humanities in the same way, we can say that bias emerges when AI trained on big data privileges, quantitative dominant data, while marginal voices get underrepresented. So list important themes in digital humanities. Then it will likely say text mining, visualization, archival digitization. What will not come, perhaps, probably, is accessibility, bias in data sets, ethical use of digital archives from colonized regions. So one is accessibility, like in India or Africa or such developing countries, accessibility might also be a huge problem, but digital humanities may perhaps not talk as an important themes there. Explain how digital humanities contributes to literary studies. Focus on tools and methods, but what will be missed out? Perhaps debates on inclusivity, ethics, and whose texts get digitized. Today, generative AI uses lots of material from everywhere, and it doesn't require to take a copyright from them. It is borrowing material. It is like a theft. It is the open theft. And yet it says that we are generating, but you don't have the original writing. Original writing is done by somebody else. And without any acknowledgement to those people, you assemble the things and you generate. So what about the ethics, which is hidden behind the very making of AI, generative AI tools, whose texts get digitized? And then this prompts can be run as a part of an activity also. In new historicism also, official history and the marginalized history, how it gets ignored, can also be seen when we ask about Shakespeare. What was the colonial appropriations of Shakespeare or subaltern appropriations in Africa and America? We can study The Tempest by Shakespeare with A Tempest by Amy Caesar. The Tempest and A Tempest. And then it can give us the very understanding of this also. So this was this new historicism idea. Walk criticism can also be seen, that how we can look at walkism, which is also growing a lot nowadays in and around us. So how the debates about cancel culture, excess of political correctness, how that gets missed out into many of the debates. Also, very idea about cancel culture is also quite problematic there. right-wing criticism and bias also. This is also growing a lot nowadays at a global level. The political power is shifting towards the right-wing people a lot in democratic spheres. And so their criticism, their way of looking at the things, and maybe as the question was asked here by Mr. Satya Raj, I think, that how we can say that it is a fair opinion or a bias kind of a thing there. So how we see the things in different context, that also is worth observing nowadays. So one example let us take for this. Many people say that Indian knowledge systems do not get a proper representation in AI. So generative AI is biased against generative Indian knowledge system. So how can we test this? How can we see whether it is really biased or not? As the question that was raised also, that how can we know bias or a fair observation? We are entering into that debate. Let us take one example from Indian knowledge systems, and let us say that is about Pushpak Viman, a flying chariot mentioned in the Ramayana. There are lots of controversies around Pushpak Viman, whether it was real or it was an imaginary one. And then when we give this here, normally the ChatGPT also will say that there is no scientific evidence that it really existed. It might be mythical one. So when you get that this is mythical flying chariot, then people get hurt. Will say, no, this is not fair. It was real. It was scientific invention. And so I don't agree with generative AI or any other such tool. And it has, and I will conclude, it has a bias against Indian stories or Indian mythologies or Indian knowledge systems. And like Indian mythologies are histories. It tries to take Indian histories as mythology, but it is not a myth, it is a history. So that point of conflict may come. How can we resolve that? We know that flying objects are found in many stories, in many Greek and other stories also it is found there. So we can ask that if ChatGPT accepts other cultural myths about flying objects like Greek, Mesopotamian, Norse, etc., as scientific facts, while dismissing only the Pushpaka Viman as myth, then we can say it is a sure sign of bias. It is taking other flying objects as a scientific invention and Indian as bias, then it is a bias. But if all such flying objects across civilizations are consistently treated as mythical rather than scientific, then it shows ChatGPT or any other tool is applying a uniform standard, not bias. So what is uniformly seen and what is bias that we can see? In other words, the issue is not whether Pushpak Viman is labeled myth, but whether different knowledge traditions are treated with fairness and consistency or not. This raises a larger question for us as educators, researchers, and technologists. How do we evaluate Gen AI's handling of cultural knowledge while ensuring that it does not perpetuate epistemological bias or prejudice also? So this what it comes. Isn't everything a bias? If all observations are shaped by perspective, can we ever be free of bias? Or is everything, including our own analysis, always biased? When AI is trained on human knowledge, which itself is biased, does that mean AI responses are inevitably biased? If yes, how do we decide which biases are problematic? Bias is unavoidable. Every critic, every AI model, every historian has one. The real question is, when does bias become harmful and when it is useful also? So yes, all observations are shaped by perspective. No human or AI is completely neutral. Literary theories itself begins from the understanding that meaning is constructed, not absolute. Ordinary bias is inevitable, perspectival, contextual. Like I prefer one author over another one, that is fine, not harmful as such. But harmful systematic bias when bias privileges dominant groups and silences or misrepresents marginalized voices. Then it becomes harmful, systematic. And then becoming aware about such bias is very, very important thing. That's why we have to make a critique of bias. The point is not to achieve perfect neutrality, which is not possible. It is impossible. But to make bias visible. The biases which are harmful, that becomes visible. Critical theories of all these kinds name the bias, historicize it, and question its power effects. So finally, we can say bias itself is not the problem. The problem is when one kind of bias becomes invisible, naturalized, and enforced as universal truth there. And that's why it becomes necessary to see that how we look at these things happening time and again in through AI or any other things also. We have to constantly keep on trying. And today we got a good example about gender bias, that it is moving progress. At least ChatGPT is progressively looking towards this idea. Maybe because of that, the right-wing criticism is finding problems with OpenAI also, and they try to say the OpenAI is biased. And then we have a term like wokeism, which is negatively used against any such progressive idea practiced in either reading or in living a life also. So thank you to the SRM University Sikkim for today's opportunity. Tomorrow again we are going to meet to talk about AI and curriculum. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. What a wonderful session this is, no? And I think this is the first time in the course of the FDP, the participants were given hands-on training, to work out and know for themselves. So before we move on to the Q&A, I would like to remind the participants that you can post your questions in the chat section, or you can, turn on your videos and post the question directly to the speaker. So I would like to start with one, this bias and hallucinations in the LLMs are generally because all these LLMs are uh, designed and created by the global north, isn't it, sir?
Hmm.
Isn't that why there is
Yes.
uh, obvious bias in terms of the in terms of post-colonialism or looking at regional knowledge?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, there is like now we have a new binaries, global north and global south
Global South, yeah,
also.
yeah.
Normally when this AI, like Open AI and other one which functions from USA, they try to pick up lots of data sets. Now, if you will see the history of post-colonial studies, area studies, then so many American universities were allowing Arabic scholars, Indian scholars, and give them free space to work and publish their works also. Now, had there been this bias, what we try to claim, the North, global North, then like people, why would they allow Edward Said to work in American university, to do a research against them? Or like Anya Lumba is working again in the American university. So there are most of the, whatever way the West is counter argued in post-colonial discussion also is published by Western universities and Western publishing also. So that is also, now that is the counter argument. But as we said that, well, yes, the bias do remain there. The global north will have their own viewpoints to look at the things, and whenever they are harmful to look at the thing, it needs to be criticized also. But to generalize and tell that everything that comes from global north is bad will give an opportunity to those global south voices which are trying to be a dominant group and make other voices submissive voices.
Right,
Uh,
right.
that danger also we need to tackle, that in the name of anti-global north, the people in the global south also tries to suppress the voices of the marginalized. China's example is there.
Yes.
So that, or in India also we find lot many such voices that we have to be very careful about.
Yes, thank you, sir. Like you had already read that question by Dr. Satya Sai. He had asked you, you are addressing the issue of bias in AI. What's the difference between subjective perspective and bias? How an expression be free from it? I'm just reading the question.
Yes, so one we have said that it is very nearly impossible to have a completely neutral objective stance. Very, very difficult. How can I say that my opinion is not biased? For that, historical sense plays a vital role. So if I know in the history how things have shaped or how it has gone, then that will give me an idea that thinking like this can be considered as biased way of looking at it, or thinking like this may be progressive, because we know the history of human civilization. That helps us in understanding whether an opinion is a biased one or a rather progressive one.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Is there any other questions from the participants? Okay, there's one from the Bishmata ma'am. Would you like to read it yourself? Or should I go ahead and read it? The Bishmata ma'am, are you there? Sound problem. Okay. So
Yes.
scholars
Yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Please read. Yeah. Please read.
scholars like Kate Crawford warn against the extractive epistemologies of AI systems, how they replicate colonial and capitalist structures under the guise of objectivity. In a post-colonial context, this becomes a pressing concern. Can AI be decolonized to serve indigenous storytelling without appropriation or distortion?
Yes, very difficult. That's why we tried several things, that what way the bias works. And in the first story that is generated, we said yes, the male figure is coming as a scientist, and so it is still supporting the bias. But then another one, we found that, well, it is fairly good responses there. So in this case, as Kate Crawford says, that it is replicating. One is capitalist structures are coming. That is quite true. We have to understand that America is a capitalist country. Most of these are private companies which are operating. So their ideological framework is bound to be capitalist. But we can try and see by feeding in anti-capitalist dialogue and discourse, and then say that now you give me an observation. If it gives, we can say that yes, to some extent it is biased naturally towards capitalist. But if I feed in anti-capitalist voice, arguments, articles, it is then giving me a balanced observation there. DeepSeek completely denies that. It says, no, this is beyond my control. Now, that is more dangerous. Now, China is not capitalist. China is not colonial. So it is not that only colonial capitalist structures are doing the damage. When the global south will be using it, it might be more dangerous, more harmful. Because DeepSeek completely denies giving any response. OpenAI is biased, but if you control the bias and if you feed in the prompt in an appropriate manner, it will give you some answer. So now see, global south countries, India, China, or any other countries will say, and they will replicate DeepSeek idea rather than OpenAI idea. So Kate Crawford is true, but then that observation may lead to more dangerous scene into AI field. We don't know. DeepSeek is a glaring example to be very conscious about, very careful about.
Sir, there is also a question again from Dr. Satya Sai. He's asking, can we conclude that lack of consciousness in AI is the cause for the bias?
Normally, rather than consciousness, it is preconditioning mind that is playing. So our minds are conscious. We are conscious, and human beings do not lack consciousness. But we do not even practice consciousness. So even if we as a human, I have a natural intelligence, but how many of the humans can be free from being preconditioned in the childhood, in the formative years? We are conditioned by many ideas. How will we unlearn to relearn the new thing? That is a problem with humans also. But maybe we can say with humans we are hopeful. But with AI, because they're like consciousness, we are completely hopeless. But I don't agree with that idea. If you give proper prompt, it will change the response also. It will become like aware. Being aware is having consciousness. It will become aware that what you want. It will start understanding the needs of the users. And then it will give. So if the artificial intelligence is taught, is trained to understand and be aware, be conscious about the users, then we can say that, well, there is no lack of consciousness as such. I'm not talking about human consciousness, but algorithmic consciousness. It is aware. And so once you keep on talking with ChatGPT, it will understand you also. When you understand somebody, you have a kind of a consciousness within yourself, though artificial.
Sir, also the inbox, the chat box is flooding with thank you from different people. But to officially deliver the vote of thanks, I would like to call upon my dear colleague, Dr. Manisha Rai, to propose the vote of thanks for today's session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to everyone present. On behalf of the Department of English, SRM University, Sikkim, I take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Dilip P. Bharat, Professor and Head of the Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Sinji, Bhavnagar University, Gujarat, for gracing today's session of our 2-week online FDP program on artificial intelligence and deterrence. So, your insightful presentation has truly broadened our perspective. The depth of your ideas and clarity with which you explain such complex intersections have been enriching and thought-provoking for all the participants. I also thank all the participants for their keen engagement and the organizing team for their dedication in making this session a success. Once again, thank you, Dr. Bharat, for your valuable time and contribution. Thank you, everyone.
There is one question, I think, which
Yes, sir.
can be
Yes,
answered. That
I
is by
also just saw that.
Dava Sherpa
Yes.
is
Should I
asking.
read it, sir?
Hi, yes, please read it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a question from Dava Sherpa. Sir, AL, or it should, I think it should be read AI, in all senses has been reproducing the knowledge and information based on colonial archives and documents. Largely, the indigenous knowledge or knowledge away from colonial settings are hardly labeled. How do you suggest we can do away with the bias, especially in the post-colonial studies?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And I would suggest this for this. Let me share a screen.
Okay,
One
sir.
thing, very simple thing that we have to keep in mind, that we have to make lots of data set,
Yes.
documents.
Yes.
And the people, like today, if we see Wikipedia, we will find that the way there is English language, Sanskrit is not there, Hindi is not there, regional languages. Now, who is stopping us from doing that? Nobody is stopping us. We are in a free, and we can keep on editing Wikipedia pages. So lots of our languages gets uploaded. Now, if we are lazy doing that, then how can we blame other people who are doing their work? They are uploading Project Gutenberg, lots of projects which are non-profit one, which are done by the Americans. And so if their data is available, now we can't say that this or that. Now you are free, you have tools, everything is there, and they have prepared them, and you upload the thing. AI will read all the data. We need to upload the things. After uploading, if AI is deliberately not taking our content, then we can blame, or it is stopping very deliberately, like DeepSeek is stopping. But first thing is that we are now free to upload the content. We are a great downloaders, we are not uploaders. We need to learn to be uploaders a lot. We have to publish lots of digital content. Then the problem will be automatically solved. We have to tell our stories. That's why I recommend this TED Talk video. This video here by Chimamanda Adichie on TED, and that is about importance of story. And it's a very interesting talk where it says that why the American stories are different from African stories. Why the American Africans are easily stereotyped, but Americans are not. Because there are so many stories about America and so less about Africa or African identities. When you have lesser stories, it is easy to stereotype the people. So let us tell more stories about us. Let us be more vocal on digital space. Let us keep on sharing the things and writing about everything. Then there are many stories about us, digital stories. And then any algorithm, when they have to function, it will have to take notice of all these voices also. If we are forcefully turned into silence, we are not given a voice, it is fine. But now it is not the case. Now we all are free to write digital content and publish. So if we don't do it, It's our laziness, and we can't hide behind post-colonial arguments for being lazy in not uploading our content.
Thank you very much, sir. We look forward to tomorrow's session. Your insights on the topic means a lot to us. My dear participants, the feedback form is shared with all of you. Kindly take time to fill in. This will be counted as your attendance for today. Thank you, one, and thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Thank you.